What started as just like a little cypherpunk movement, a little decentralized revolution, has now come all the way to Washington, D.C. We're here as Bitcoiners to engage with politics. I'm gonna be doing a little fireside chat with Frank Corva. I'm gonna sit down with Michael Saylor. I'm gonna sit down with Samson Mao, Pierre Richard, and we're gonna talk about what politics looks like in the Bitcoin era, because we believe that it's important not to disengage. Politics doesn't go away, but rather to engage, to shape it, to build the world that we want.
If Bitcoin is this tool that can build this better world, then how do we get there? The only way that you're going to get the world that you want, no one's gonna build your dream for you, is for you to take responsibility and get involved and go build that. Build the world you want.
It's crazy how many people today, especially young people, don't want to be involved in politics. When you think about the founding fathers of the United States, these were men in their 20s and their 30s, and they chose to go build the world that they wanted. So they didn't disengage, they didn't go disappear, right? They didn't go just live their life, but they engaged. And so they read the books, they wrote the pamphlets, they came here, they petitioned, and they built a decentralized form of government, the government they wanted. Today, you know, we're here at another crossroads where we have a new decentralized form of money. And so the question is, while we're here as Bitcoiners here in Bitcoin DC, is how are we gonna engage with the state? Are we gonna take a more constitutional approach? Or are we here to ask for permission? Are we here for them to give us clear guidelines that allow us to do things? The founding fathers understood that we're a free nation, and so we need to restrict the government. That's what I'm for. Everybody, young and old, but especially the young people, engage with politics. As I say, you're either gonna build the world that you want, or the world's gonna be built for you. Bitcoin was like this very decentralized form of money. It was what people called like internet magic money or whatever. So on one hand, it's sort of like interesting to be here, but at the same time, like, of course it was always going to be this way, because of course Bitcoin was always going to take over the world. And so there's no way to get there without taking over the government next. And I think a lot of Bitcoiners misunderstand this key point, because they want to keep Bitcoin. They want to keep it cypherpunk. They want to keep it hardcore, anti-establishment to its roots. And so a lot of them are like, why are you engaging in politics? Like, don't bow down to the government. Don't simp to the government or whatever. We're not pandering to the government. We're not begging the government. We're not asking the government for permission. What we're doing is something much bigger. Instead of asking for the government to give us permission to operate, we're taking control of the government. We're taking over the government. And so it's much bigger, and of course it was always gonna work out that way. A lot of Bitcoiners don't understand, they don't have that big vision. Our forefathers told us, right? It's we the people. It's not the government and us, the subjects, but we the people are the government. We the people set the policy, and that's what we're doing. We got the post office department right here, and over here we got the Internal Revenue Service. Everybody's favorite government organization right there. Give up half your paycheck every single year. After a quick little coffee break, little power up, it's time to go see the Lincoln Memorial. You want to know an interesting fact about Lincoln that maybe is what got him killed? He was the first president to say, why would we borrow money from a bank and pay them interest? Why didn't the government create its own form of money? So he created his own currency called the greenback to fight the Civil War. He's the only president in history that's actually done that, allowed the government to create their own money outside of a central bank. Of course, he got assassinated. No president since then has attempted that. So was it a central bank thing? We don't really know, but it sure is interesting.
That's what I used to tell people when I went to, I'm at the conference.
Yeah, the difference is I got to speak there. We're here talking about Bitcoin and policy.
I've enjoyed watching your videos.
Ah, thank you.
You're on top of it.
Heading over to the conference, I have a fireside chat. That's like a real intimate one-on-one chat with Frank Corva from Bitcoin Magazine. You know, a lot of people in the Bitcoin space think that Bitcoin is here to separate money from state. We shouldn't be bowing down, bending the knee, pandering to politics. I might have had that viewpoint before, but I've changed my mind multiple times as I get new information, so we're gonna talk about it.
Please put your hands together for Mark Moss and Frank Corva.
So the ideal is to create laws, policy that allows us to hold our Bitcoin, hold our private keys, do what we will with it, and ideally as private a manner as possible. But from a policy...
I would say just on that,
yeah.
It's not create laws that allow us to have private property or have self-custody.
Yep.
It's about creating laws that prohibit the government from encroaching on our rights.
To have those.
To have private property.
That's a great point. Thank you, Mark. Give this man a round of applause. Much appreciated. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. That was phenomenal.
I think the fireside chat went pretty good. I think it went good from like a flow standpoint. Frank and I, we've done a bunch of stuff together, so we had a pretty casual, sort of like conversational tone to it that I thought went pretty good.
Welcome in. Samson. Cool room. Pretty good.
see you. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, good to see you.
Because Bitcoin is still young, I would say. Yeah, it depends on your view. Like, if Bitcoin is the best form of money ever created, and we have the ability to teleport Bitcoin around the world in an instant, we can verify. You can't counterfeit it. Maybe it changes the dynamic.
It does, because it can be everything in one asset.
All right, so wrap it up.
Good stuff.
How are you?
Watch on YouTube all the
Oh,
time.
good. Thank you. Thank you. What's your name?
My name's Brett. Best video ever was you talking about the loans.
Yeah.
So I use that trick in buying a house now and
Nice.
selling my sats. And
Nice.
it's been awesome.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to make people think like from a first principles level, like what income really is.
Can I take a picture?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Anyway, hey.
Yeah. Hey, good to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that you're taking action. That's the reward. I want to hear people got the information and did something with it.
How to retire on Bitcoin in
Yeah,
5 years.
that's what we're just talking about, and he's doing it, and he's like, I'm actually doing
I'm
it.
doing it too.
Yeah. Bitcoin represents a decentralized form of money that nobody controls. And so it takes the power, not just out of the hands of the government, it takes it out of the hands of anybody, everybody, men. And so now we have this decentralized form of money that nobody can control. So nobody can create more units and steal your value. Nobody can crash it or inflate it. And nobody can steal it from you. And so it's a completely new paradigm that removes it from the government. So today we've seen both the federal government put executive orders into place this year, as well as we've seen 6 individual states put in bills specifically to guarantee your right to self-custody, guarantee your right to mine Bitcoin, guarantee your right to work on, to code open source blockchains. I'd like to see more protections of keeping the government in check, not telling us what we can do. Hello, hello. Michael, good to see you.
Likewise.
Not a bad view, right?
Not a bad view at all.
It's my first trip to DC.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I just realized you got my computer. I need to post something
Yep.
at 4:05.
Michael, first of all, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me here in DC.
Yeah, happy to be here.
I've gotten to spend a little bit of time with you, but we've never sat down one-on-one, so I've been excited for this.
The equivalent of kerosene in the Bitcoin industry is a Treasury preferred credit instrument like Stretch. Well, thanks for hosting me, and I'm happy to be on the journey with you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. That was good. What a journey.
It's an exciting time, and it's more exciting now because there are just so many possibilities that even a year ago were very murky.
The Bitcoin path is an evolutionary path. So a lot of times people think like, what's the one point? But that's not how life works. So it's like a process. And so one of the latest parts of the process in this evolutionary path is Bitcoin treasury companies. Bitcoin, unlike other types of assets, started from the ground up. So it was like really just like 2 or 3 people. Now we have governments buying it. Now we have businesses being built, public corporations being built specifically to buy Bitcoin. A lot of people still don't want to use Bitcoin. And when we talk about full adoption of technology is typically about 80%, which is kind of weird to think about. Not 100%. Not everybody uses the internet still. The biggest market that needs Bitcoin are the people that don't know they need Bitcoin and might never use Bitcoin. Doesn't mean they don't need Bitcoin. What the treasury companies represent is like a refinery model where we take in Bitcoin as like a base layer asset and then we create products off of that. So we take in raw oil, black sludge, and then we can turn it into not just gasoline, diesel fuel, racing fuel, helicopter fuel, but we can also turn it into petrochemicals, synthetics, polyester, silicon, rubber. And so now we can take Bitcoin and we can synthesize it down into all these different products for individual use cases. And so now a retiree that can't get by on $30,000 a year can take the same money and go make $120,000 a year, safer than before, without ever knowing they're using Bitcoin. The world needs a new metric, a new unit of account. I think by 2050, I would say most of the world's going to be on that.
What do we prioritize on a tactical level, given the game of politics, right?
I think that we should sort of be trying to keep the government in check, more like the founding fathers had intended the Constitution to be, as opposed to working with them to pass laws that allow us what to do.
We always want to be moving the ball down the field away from banning Bitcoin.
Okay. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks for having me on, Mark.
All right, cool. Yeah, so the first trip to DC, it's a wrap. Talking about Bitcoin at the nation's capital, sort of influencing them. It just kind of shows that with the right influence, with the right education, talking to lawmakers, right? The lawmakers, and the government's not a monolith. There's individual people in there, and we've influenced a lot, and we've gone from an administration that doesn't know anything about Bitcoin or is overly aggressive against it to now an entire administration that's for it. We either build the world that we want, or we end up living in a world that we probably don't want. Just a world by default. And so here we are engaging, we're communicating, we're building, and we're taking it over. We're taking the government over. And we can drive that government to the will that we want, or you can disengage. You can not be involved. You can not be interested in politics. And you can complain that you don't get what you want. I don't think that's the way to go. So that's the takeaway. Build or be built, man. You want that world? Go out and build it.
I think there's a lot of low opportunities.
Perfect.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Take a photo together? Oh, yeah. Because our university is about...
So these are going to go in the museum.